Welcome to today's episode of the J&J podcast. I'm Jamie,
This is Jameson.
and we want to welcome all of our listeners in. Um, a lot is going on right now in college basketball. Things are starting to heat up as obviously we're around the corner from March Madness. And so we wanted to kick off today's episode talking a little bit about college basketball. As most of you know, I am a Carolina Tar Heels homer. It's my alma mater. And so from time to time, we like to sprinkle in what's going on with the Heels. So, Jameson, why don't you get us kicked off with college basketball? Carolina men beat Virginia. What are your thoughts about that game and how the Heels actually played?
Honestly, I know like you'll be able to give more thoughts, more of your thoughts too. But just watching that game, I just got to give a huge shout out to Jalen Withers, man. That was easily the best game, arguably the best game he's had as a member of the Carolina Tar Heels basketball program. I know he had 4 3, 16 points, 11 rebounds. Gave a huge contribution. We ended up winning that game by 15 points. And honestly, I was happy watching that game, but more so frustrated at the same time because I'm like, man, where has this been the entire season? You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. We're playing with desperation at this point because like we're not even guaranteed to make the March Madness tournament. So I get it. Like we're playing with a lot of desperation. Dudes are stepping up. I mean, key examples like what I just said with Jalen Withers, but it's more so frustrating in my opinion as a Carolina fan because it's like, I mean, y'all playing like this now. Where was this against Stanford or some of these other games that we played, or like where was this energy against Duke a couple weeks ago? But all in all, I will say, I mean, there's a lot of positives to take away. Like we're playing good as a team. I think one of the biggest differences I've seen the last couple of weeks with our plays, we've there's been more of a concerted effort on defense, which is always a plus. And then Carolina's always at its best. Any year whenever they can get stops and get out and run in transition. So we've been able to do that a lot more over the last couple of weeks and last couple of games. So I mean, a lot of positives. It's something to continue to monitor with the Carolina men's team. And my hope is that we can just finish out the season strong. Hopefully, make some noise in the ACC tournament. I'm not saying we have to win the whole thing, but at least win maybe at least 2 rounds. And just give ourselves a chance to actually make the March Madness tournament. But the one plus is on paper, outside of our big problems, we match up pretty much to any other team in the country given our guard play and, Seth Trimble, Ian Jackson, RJ Davis, Cadeau. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. It's just more so frustrating that, we haven't been able to put everything together so far throughout the entire season. But your thoughts as well.
Yeah, man, you touched on a lot of stuff. I have a decent amount to unpack here, to be honest with you, and agreed. Shout out to Jalen Withers. I think the shakeup in the starting lineup has actually been good.
Yeah.
I know there are folks who probably question Ian Jackson potentially coming off the bench, but when you look at how we've been out rebounded, I mean, literally, Carolina's known, and we don't obviously have that traditional big like we used to, but like Van Lubin, where was this? Where was that earlier in the season? Like there were times when I'm like, this dude can't even catch the basketball. Forget trying to dunk it. So I've seen the change with Withers being in the lineup because when he actually transferred, this is what we thought we were getting. And I don't know if it was just something between the ears. I don't know what they were thinking. I did. I kind of felt like earlier in the season there was a lot of selfish play taking place. Guys like, I'm going to get mine, whether everybody gets theirs or not is not my responsibility. That's kind of what it looked like to me. And I know that there are lots of folks who blame Hubert Davis and say, well, he's not coaching well and he's not doing this. A coach can only do but so much. A coach can only call plays, and then you have to have guys who are willing to do what is required to execute the game plan. And now I'm starting to see that. So believe it or not, and Jameson, I know that you're big on Ian Jackson, and we're hoping that he actually stays for another year.
Yeah.
But I actually like the fact that he's coming off the bench because now we have some firepower coming in. If Jalen Withers, I'm not saying he's going to get 16 and 11 every game, but if he's getting 12 and 10 every game, that goes a long way. He's rebounding. He's playing good defense. Seth Trimble coming off the bench again. I like the fact that we now have those guys who can come off the bench and contribute, and we don't necessarily have a drop off. That's what was happening after those, that, I mean, it was murderer's row at the beginning of the season. We
Yeah.
played all these top teams, and we were so close in all of those games. But what we didn't have coming off the bench in many of those games was that additional firepower so that there wouldn't be a drop off. And so now I'm seeing that. But to your point, I am a little bit frustrated. I've caped for Huber Davis a lot of this year, and I think in the age of NIL, he's had to make some major transitions. And I mean, I don't know if you heard about it or saw it, but Roy Williams even came out, and
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, I mean, Roy was going in, and he was like, you know what? A lot of people can sit on their couch and say what they should do or what they would do. And he was like, I remember when everybody was saying Roy Williams can't win the big one. Roy Williams can't do this. He said, and then when I won the championship, all of a sudden I'm a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
I mean, I was like, man, he really gives perspective. And so I recognize that what we've seen isn't traditional Carolina basketball, but we're also not living in traditional basketball times.
No, it's not the
Um,
same
you know,
anymore.
it's not the same. And so I like what I'm seeing. At the time that we're doing this, I think the Hills have a game tonight, so they can keep that momentum. But they've now played three back-to-back games. They destroyed NC State. That was a huge win against Virginia. And so we've had three solid games. Teams that at the beginning of the year, everybody thought, yeah, you should beat those teams. But to be perfectly honest with you, going into these games, given how the season has gone, we weren't sure if we were going to beat these teams. And so I see lots of positives. I think we now have a rotation that can work. I think guys have now really kind of bought in. Drake Powell has been, to use one of your favorite words, has been phenomenal. Um, and when you look at his numbers, you don't necessarily think, oh, well, he's not putting 20 and 10 up, but he's affecting the game in so many ways, playing defense and making good passes. And literally, when he sets a screen, he has one of the fastest first steps that I think that is in college basketball right now, which is why he's potentially a draft pick in the first round. That's what I've heard very very recently. So I like what I'm seeing about what the Heels are doing. We just have to keep that momentum. We have to win the games that we're supposed to win, and then we also need to go shock the world and beat Duke. And I think the way this team is playing, they are actually capable of doing it. Every year, we always hear about Duke is finding their stride, and Duke is this, and Duke is that. Duke played Illinois this weekend at Madison Square Garden, and people were like, "Wow, look at what they did." It's Illinois.
Yeah,
Once again, it's another unranked team. I mean, nobody ever talks about that. They always talk about how many games Duke has won, but they don't look at who they actually played.
I agree.
Um, and I would have to think that those games that we played earlier in the season we're now going to start to see what we learned from those games. And for these last three games, I'm starting to see those things.
Yes,
So,
sir.
yep. So now shifting gears a little bit because as upset as we've been about the men's team, my
Whew.
God, our women, the Lady Tar Heels are rolling.
Yeah.
Um, that game against Louisville, and I'm gonna let you talk about it first because
Oh no,
I
you're
know
fine.
that you were watching it, a part of it in real time. I wasn't, and I had recorded it, and I told you, don't tell me what happened. But I knew we went into this game and the last game without Utsby, so I wasn't going to be upset if the end result wasn't what I expected. But man, that was impressive. You're tell me what you thought about it because I know you were able to see some of the game.
No, honestly, I was very impressed. That was our biggest comeback so far this entire season, and I just gotta say this: as bad as the men have been, the women. This is probably the best women's Carolina women's basketball team that I've seen in years. Probably dating back to when Diamond and Shields was there. I know that's a name.
Yes.
But
Right.
but it's just for us to come back because people don't understand. Even though Louisville was not ranked coming into that game, that's probably one of the tough. That might be the toughest team you can play that's unranked right now, in my opinion.
Yes.
Very hostile
Yes.
crowd, hostile environment. I mean, for us to go in there, be down 15 points at one point, come all the way back and win the game, and doing it without arguably, if not our best, at least our second best player, Alyssa Utsby, just absolutely huge. And then I just got to give a huge shout out to Lainey Grant, the freshman. Like, we
Mm.
always talk about her, but she had a career high 19 points. She had more points than her age. Like that's good ball.
Right.
That's good
That's a good
ball.
ball.
So huge shout out to her. Renaya Kelly, she just I mean, I just really like our roster this year. It's like it's crazy that we lost one Kelly and now the other Kelly's honestly even better in my opinion. With all due
Yep.
respect. But going forward too, it's just like this team's on a roll. They're now ranked number 8 in the entire nation, and on top of that, we're the only undefeated team that's left. Only team that's left that's undefeated on the road. We're 9-0
Yes.
on the road. So I know I can't have talk right now, but but overall,
I'm like, what?
I'm just really excited to like see what we can do. Come ACC tournament time, and of course March Madness time. But huge shout out to Courtney Bankart, the entire crew. Like they just been really just exceeding expectations. Like I honestly I was not expecting that much, coming into the season, but the fact that we're a top 10, ranked top in the top 10 in the entire nation right now, which is absolutely incredible. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm go drink you some water. Yeah, listen, you are struggling. No, everything that you said was absolutely true. I am. By the way, shout out to Treyana Crisp because as great
Yeah,
as Laney Grant played, Treyana Crisp, and see, man, folks forgot about the fact that she had been out injured for a month, and so I knew that her being back in the lineup was going to be huge. Like it was a that was a that was a turning point in the game. She came in and she hit like back-to-back threes, and it shifted the momentum because, to your point, excuse me, it's a very hostile crowd in Louisville, and they also play a very, very aggressive and, I mean, just very rough style of basketball. And so for us to kind of weather that storm, the physicality that was going on in that game, and I mean, let's just be honest, there was some home cooking with the officiating. There just
facts.
was. I don't know how many times they called a jump ball when it should have been a foul. Like it kind of got out of control at one point. But for us to weather that storm without Utsby, got dang fouled out literally with like I think maybe 5 minutes left, and um, what's her name? Played at Apex Friendship. Um,
I can't think of her name.
oh my gosh, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
it'll come back to
no,
us.
yeah, it'll come back to me. Anyway, she was in foul trouble the whole game. As a matter of fact, she had 3 fouls in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
So for Laney Grant to step in, for Treyana Crisp to come into the game, fill that void. Blanca Thomas, who, if you look at her stats, you think, well, she didn't do a lot, but she was a presence. She was getting some rebounds. She was physical. And again, she's a freshman. Laney Grant is 17 years old.
Yep.
Blanca Thomas is a true freshman. Laney Grant is the truest of true freshmen. At 17 years old, she should still be a senior in high school right now. So shout out to the Lady Tar Heels playing great basketball in spite of defense travels. And that's what I've noticed. Shout out to Courtney Banghart because she literally revamped this whole roster. And
And you
they're
were
doing
talking
their
about
thing.
India Navarre. That's who it was.
India Navarre, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yes, India Navarre, because man, India has been playing really, really big, but she was in foul trouble, so they came in and picked up the slack. So big shout out to the Lady Tar Heels. I'm excited to see how they do. And by the way, that win, there was a tie between them and Louisville for the third position in the ACC. And with Notre Dame losing to NC State, we actually hold a tiebreaker. So there's still 2 games left. I think State is 1 game ahead of us. But if we were to win out, and let's say, for example, State were to lose, we could potentially be in the second position in the ACC, going into the tournament. So that's a huge deal
Yeah.
for the Lady Tar Heels.
Well, speaking of teams that are on momentum, the Lakers moving it over to the NBA. Jameson, get us into that because I know you're happy.
Yeah, I might be one of the happiest dudes right now in North Carolina, especially on Saturday night after we just, smacked the Denver Nuggets. And that win really meant a lot to me, Luka Doncic, that was like pretty much a coming out party for Luka. I just saw a whole lot of Luka magic. And just overall, that was arguably on paper and just watching that from a visual perspective as a fan, honestly, that might have been the most complete game that the Lakers have played the entire season, outside of their win against the Knicks a couple weeks ago. That was actually, well, funny enough, that was the night that the AD and Luka trade actually got announced. But just, I gotta give a huge shout out to JJ Redick. Like the way he has the Lakers playing right now, not even having Anthony Davis. Like since December, we have been number one in the NBA in overall team defense, and we're doing that now with Jackson Hayes at the forefront instead of Anthony Davis. Like there's really been no drop off in my opinion. We've actually gotten better as a team overall defensively, which is like you would not expect that after you just lost a top 3 to 5 defensive player in all of basketball. But just watching that game, Rui Hachimura was just lights out from beyond the arc. Austin Reeves had it going. Austin Reeves is quietly turning into, honestly, like probably the best third option right now in all of basketball, in my opinion. His ability to not only create shots for himself, but be able to like play make and create for others, and then he doesn't turn the ball over either. And he's becoming a much more improved overall defender too, out on the perimeter. And then Luka Doncic, man, 4 steals. Like he actually was trying on defense, gave a whole lot of effort. I mean, I've never seen a game where Luka Doncic has 4 steals. Like, and it wasn't just like no loose ball steals. Like he was actually playing passing lanes, playing really good defense. And then the fact that we held Nikola Jokic to only 11 points, he had 6 turnovers. Like that might have been one of the worst games I've seen Jokic play in the last like 3 or 4 seasons. So overall, like LeBron had it going. Luka 32 points. LeBron had 25. Austin Reeves and both Rui combined for over 40 points. It's just like that was just an overall concerted team effort. Dorian Finney-Smith gave us some good minutes. Gave Vincent, like just overall, man, I'm one of the happiest Lakers fans right now in all of America. But your thoughts, sir?
Not the happiest Lakers fan in all of America.
I'm telling you, man, like that just put a smile on my face watching that on Saturday.
Oh, that's funny. And look, I can't argue with you
Yeah.
because I do believe you might be the happiest Lakers fan in America right now. So the reason I'm saying that is because I recorded the game. I wasn't able to watch it in real time, and you reached out to me and you said, Dad, are you watching the game? And I was like, no, but I think I'm gonna go watch it. And that was like at 11 o'clock at night. You literally called me at 11 and said, "Are you gonna go? Did you watch the game?" And I was like, "Well, now I'm gonna have to go," because you were like, "Well, I'm just gonna tell you, you're gonna be happy with the outcome." I was like, "Really?" So now you already tell me what the outcome is. So I had to go watch it. Boy, was it worth it. I I thought I was gonna, just kind of fast forward through certain parts of the game. No, sir. It was fun to watch. I literally had to sit there and watch the whole thing.
Yep.
And it ended up taking me longer than 2 hours, even though I recorded it because I kept rewinding different parts, different plays and different parts of the game. When Luka did the step back with one leg and then he hollered at the dude on the sideline, I was like, oh, we're back.
Yep.
Oh, we are so back.
Yep.
And here's what I will say. Because I heard, there's a dude who talks on a daily basis at 10 o'clock on ESPN who now all of a sudden.
Yeah, he's switching up again.
All of a sudden now, JJ Redick might actually be the coach. You have to put him. Man, shut up. You've been dogging the Lakers out the whole time, and now all of a sudden, these dudes change like the wind. When the wind changes direction, so does their take. It's honestly almost pathetic. Those of us who've been watching and paying attention, we've slowly seen JJ Redick be able to implement what he wanted to do, and we've seen those changes. We saw it from the very beginning, and then we've seen the adjustments that he's made when he got new players to come on board, when DFS came on. We've been there watching it, and we've seen it, so we knew. That win over the Nuggets, though, the way that he designed that defense, it really frustrated Jokic. Yeah. Jamal Murray had it going. He was killing it. It didn't matter.
Nope.
Michael Porter Jr. at one point had it going until the second half. Then he was frustrated. They could do nothing.
Yep.
Because of those defensive strategies and tactics that JJ Redick had implemented. So I love it. I love what I'm seeing. I will have to say this. I got to give a shout out to Jackson Hayes. again, you look at his stats, they don't blow you away, but he's doing the little stuff.
Yep. And
You
his
know,
job is
he's
going to be
cut.
so much easier now, having
That's
Luka
right.
and LeBron just playing with them.
Absolutely. Seeing some of those passes, there was one pass that Luca made, and there are literally, I mean,
The
Jameson, you
skip
and I talked
pass.
about this. That skip pass. There are
Woo-hoo.
literally three people right now that we would say in the NBA who could do it. You actually said this. It's LeBron, Luca, and Jokic,
Yep, and they're
and
all on the
and
floor together.
and they were all on the floor together, and two of them are on the same team.
Yep.
When he did that skip pass, and it literally left LeBron wide open on the baseline, and he drove and dunked it in. I was like, yeah. And what could they have done defensively to have stopped that?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm not going to get overhyped because you remember in December I was not a
Yeah,
happy
you were.
camper,
You weren't.
and I listen. I still haven't changed my mind about Rob Pelinka. That has not changed. Not much. Very little. I'm like, whoop de doo. You actually were able to sign Luca because somebody handed him to you.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job. Great.
I'm gonna say
Um,
this real quick though. Just and no bias when I say this, but like right now, the only team I'm scared of in the West is the Thunder, and
well,
there's
rightly so.
and I'll be honest, no, there's an asterisk even with that because I'm like, you saw what Luca did against them last year. And I mean, I will say this: they have a deeper team than us. Pause on that. Overall, and it's like it's gonna be tough to guard Shea, but we have bodies that we can throw at Shea. Chet is gonna be Chet.
Yeah.
He is honestly though he has not played that well since he's gotten back. But honestly, I feel like that series, if we end up matching up with them, it's gonna come down to the role players like Alex Caruso, the DFSs of the world, the Vandos of the world, that sort of thing. But I'm just bringing looking at the Western Conference landscape. I'm like, I'm not scared of the Grizzlies. The Rockets are young; they don't have any playoff experience. Like the Nuggets, we just show what we can do against them. And what I think people really got to sit there and take into account is who in their right mind is going to be able to stop Luka Doncic and LeBron James in a 7-game series. I just don't see that happening. Like even the other night, Luka Doncic he could have honestly had 50. Like he started off the game pretty slow. I think people forget how good Luka Doncic is. And he's 25. Like that's why I'm not only hyped for right now, the rest of this season, but just our future. Like even post LeBron, we literally have a 25-year-old that's already if Luka Doncic retired right now, he'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no question.
He absolutely would.
And we got him now in his prime at 25. And I will just say this before we move on. If you thought that Denver Nuggets game was a masterclass, I can't wait to see what Luka does against the Mavericks tomorrow. Lord
Oh
have
my
mercy.
God.
Lord have mercy.
Listen, I'm popping at least 3 bags of popcorn tomorrow night. I mean, this is gonna be historic.
Get a family combo.
I'm serious. Like I may pretend like I'm at the movies.
Yo, that
And
is hilarious.
Go get me some Twizzlers, some peanut M&Ms. I'm gonna pop at least a couple of tubs of popcorn. This is must see TV tomorrow night. Woo, woo. Hey, I'm excited about that one.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Me too.
All right, shifting gears because we could talk about the Lakers all night.
Yeah.
The Cavs, man.
I'm gonna be honest. And I was
Donovan
talking to
Mitchell is special.
He is, and I'll be honest. I was talking about this yesterday. I think that right now they can beat the Celtics, and I get it.
Agree.
People and honestly, they're the only team that can beat the Celtics out east, in my opinion. It's just from a matchup perspective. I think the only spot where I give the Celtics an edge is their guard play. I just don't trust Darius Garland. Given what he did last year in the playoffs, it's like I trust Drew Holiday. I trust Derek White. I even trust Peyton Pritchard. The last couple of years, all three of those guys have always come to play come playoff time. And especially in very meaningful games. It's just I haven't seen that from Garland. I'm not saying he can't do it. It's just, but to your point, when you look at Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, you now have Donovan Mitchell. This is arguably the best season he's had. And I said this yesterday. I felt bad saying this, but it was no disrespect to Donovan Mitchell. I thought he kind of peaked in Utah. I didn't think we would ever see a better version of him, than his last couple years in Utah. I mean, I thought about it. What players go to Cleveland and get better? I'm just being with all due respect.
I know you didn't mean that to be funny, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
and I'm with you. I
yeah,
thought he had peaked in Utah. I
yeah.
really had.
Like
Yeah.
he's literally taking his game to another level. Like he's a top 10 player right now in all of basketball. And then I think what separates them is going to be the play of Evan Mobley this year. Like
Yes.
there's not a single like you telling me Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford are going to be able to contain Evan Mobley? I think not. And on top of that, people got to forget they now have DeAndre Hunter. They now have depth. They have Max Strus. They have a lot of weapons off the bench and Jared Allen. Like they're gonna have to deal with Jared Allen crashing the boards and being a rim protector for an entire series. So of course, most people right now, if I was a betting man, most people are still gonna take the Celtics. But I really think that this is the year that the Cavs can actually knock them off. Like the Cavs are honestly good enough to win it all right now, in my opinion. The way they've been playing basketball. But your thoughts?
No, I agree. That the only concern and that I had prior to them making that move to go get DeAndre Hunter was their depth.
Yeah.
That's the area where I looked at Boston and I'm like, man, they've got dudes coming off the bench who could potentially start on other teams. And so that to me, and now Al Horford obviously is older, but when I started, Derek White has jumped leaps and bounds, and you know how we talk about every 4 years, I always talked about how the dudes you see an improvement in the guys who played in the Olympics.
Yep.
And I mean, Jason Tatum is on his revenge tour. We know that's part of it. But all the other dudes, Derek White,
Andrew Holiday played on that team,
and Austin Reeves.
Yep.
If you start looking at some of the dudes who played, in preparation for it. Now, Austin Reeves obviously wasn't on the, but what I'm saying is those dudes who were part of the team to prepare for the Olympics. You see an improvement in them. And so with Derek White's improvement and then their bench, I was like, man, it's going to be the Celtics again out of the East. I'm not so sure now. I have to agree with you. I think that the Cavs, DeAndre Hunter, picking him up, if he can stay healthy, that's huge.
That's what I'm saying, because he would, like, you remember we talked about it, like he was peaking with the Hawks. Like I was shocked when that trade even happened. Given the way he'd been playing. And it's like, honestly, on paper, it was still a solid trade for both teams. But it's like right now, like he's been huge for the Cavs already so far. And then you got to think about it now come playoff time. He's a guy that you can put on Jason Tatum and on Jaylen Brown. And then defensively, they can't just sit there and just, DeAndre Hunter can score. Like, they can't just sit there and just relax on defense. Like, he's going to force him to bring effort on both sides of the basketball. So, and I'm just going to be honest, like, Donovan Mitchell, like, I mean, people forget last year, Donovan Mitchell was having multiple 40-point games in the playoffs last year. He just wasn't getting help elsewhere. Like, Darius Garland was god-awful. Same with Mobley. And you got to remember, Jared Allen was hurt.
That's right.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, so last thing that I'll say, because, I mean, if you're really paying attention to the Cavs, Donovan Mitchell is having an MVP type year.
He might be All-NBA first team right now. No trouble.
Oh, I would agree with that. If I had a vote, I would make it. I would actually choose him for sure to be on that. So I think that it'll be interesting to see. We've already seen them some head to head, and that was when the Cavs weren't even at full strength.
Facts.
Darius Garland's going to be the X factor. He's got to bring it because last year he was D-Lo. Let's just be honest. Yeah, I said it.
You're right, though.
He was D-Lo in the playoffs. He was D-Lo against Denver in the playoffs.
You're 1,000% right. And then also, too, I think what'll help them come playoff time is I love Kenny Atkinson. I think he's a really good coach. Like, they've clearly already bought into, like, this is his first season with the Cavs, and look what he's already done. And it's like he has a lot of playoff experience. So I trust him.
And now they've got playoff experience under their belt.
Exactly. I trust him and that's the thing. Like, I've watched some of their games, a lot of their games actually, and he's not a coach that just sits there and, like, he makes adjustments. So I think come playoff time, that'll be what separates him this year compared to previous seasons.
Absolutely. All right, so our last topic for the NBA, Joel Embiid. My God. I'm honestly, I'm just going to give you the floor with this one because I just don't have a lot to say. I'm just, I'll say he's on my fantasy team, and I'm obviously not in the playoffs. So I think that tells you all that you need to know. But Yeah, I'll just leave the floor open for you because I'm really kind of disappointed.
Here's what I'm gonna say, man, with the Sixers. They need to blow it up this offseason. I think
Yep.
the only player that should be untouchable on that roster is Tyrese Maxey. But the thing that sucks about that is, like, who are they gonna trade? Because Paul George, nobody's eating up that contract. They with all due respect, they would have been better off keeping Tobias Harris. He's actually had a
Yes.
really good season for the Pistons. Paul George, that brother stinks. I'm sorry, he sucks. That brother sucks. And I saw people get on him before All-Star break like, this brother put up a 2-point stinker and then
2 points.
automatically went to Cabo on vacation. I'm like, he
Come
don't
on,
want
man.
it. We talk about
No.
this all the time. I'm like, bruh, you can't care more about vacation and podcasting than you do your commitment to the basketball club that you play for. It's like
To your livelihood.
Yep, to your livelihood. Philly gave you all those guaranteed dollars, and you stink. Like, he had a 5 or 6 game stretch where he didn't score over 15 points. That's unacceptable. It's like, bruh, you're making almost $60 million a season. Like, that's first off. And then Joel Embiid. I'm going to give Joel Embiid this. I think that Joel Embiid actually somewhat wants to play basketball. It's just he's not being completely honest about how bad his injuries are. Yeah, so I'm going to give him that because Joel Embiid, he clearly wants to play. Like, I mean, of course, people got upset about it, but it's like, prime example was he didn't have to play in this year's Olympics. A lot of people honestly didn't want him to play, but you can tell like he forced himself to play through it, and he was a very integral player. A part of us winning gold this summer.
Well, I
But
was gonna say, had he not played, we might
facts,
not have
we
won the
wouldn't.
gold.
Yeah, we wouldn't have, especially given all the centers and stuff we had to play against.
That's
But
right.
I'll just say this: if I'm the Sixers, they need to try to trade Joel Embiid this offseason because his value is just diminishing by the second, man. And I feel bad for the brother because he's a generational talent. He's the closest thing to Akeem Olajuwon I've seen in the last decade or two. Like, he's all world, he's special. Like, he's won MVP for a reason. It's just going forward though. You can't now have 2 out of 3 of your big 3 that are always injury prone or just not being productive. With Paul George and Joel Embiid. Like Tyrese Maxey, he's had a monster season, and it's like it's amounted to absolutely nothing. They stink. They're not even in the play-in right now. And then what sucks for them going forward is you're paying all these dudes all this money. It's like, what team in their right mind is going to go trade for Paul George right now? What team, and honestly, is getting to the point where what team is going to go out there and trade for Joel Embiid either? So Philly's in a very rough spot. In my opinion, they need to just try to tank at this point. Tank the season, allow Tyrese Maxey, continue to put up numbers, get his stats. But outside of that, this season is a wash. They absolutely suck.
I honestly don't have much to add. As I said, I'm disappointed. I agree with you when it comes to Joel Embiid. I honestly think Joel comes back because they're so anxious to get him back. I think when he gets injured, he comes back before he's fully healthy. And I know that happened this time. You could tell he was working his way back, and folks were like, "Well, he's got to get his stamina." And all. No, it wasn't just stamina. He wasn't healthy.
Yeah, he's not healthy.
His knee was still bothering him, and you could tell in certain games. Like he'd go up for a dunk, and he'd come down, and he would land very gingerly.
Yep.
So, and I don't think it was necessarily him being out of shape. I just think it's just he wasn't healthy. So I agree with you. Blow it up. Keep Maxey and see what you can get on the market. You're going to lose money on Paul George because he's not even a role player at this point. Like there are dudes who are their second year in the league who are playing better than him.
Yeah,
Their
I
first year in the
completely
league.
agree. There are rookies that I would take. I would take Stephon Kels right now over Paul George, with all due respect.
All day and twice on Sunday. Absolutely.
He stinks.
Absolutely.
He stinks.
He stinks.
Kelly Oubre has been better for them.
Wow.
Kelly Oubre.
That's you're right. You're absolutely right. So I'm with you. Blow it up, keep Maxey and build, rebuild. Start from the beginning.
Yep.
Well, wrapping up the episode, let's get into moving the needle, and we'll start with you, sir.
Yep. So my moving the needle is college basketball, but it's not the men's. It's the women's. Women's college basketball
Yep.
They've had our attention for a few years now. I mean, Jameson and I, and it wasn't just the whole Caitlin Clark, thing. We've been watching women's basketball for a minute, and we've been paying very, very close attention. A lot of people jumping on the bandwagon after Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. But man, it is absolutely fun now. I'm enjoying watching the women's basketball game in the NCAA more than, to be honest with you, than I am the men's. Lots of wonderful matchups. That NC State and Notre Dame game yesterday, that literal whole lineup of ACC games yesterday was excellent to watch.
Yep.
Not to mention, what Juju Watkins is doing. I mean, it's what. Not to mention what Paige Beckers is doing. There's lots to be excited about in college women's basketball. I'm enjoying watching it, and I'm especially happy this year because my Tar Heels are right in the thick of it. They are a team that, fully healthy, I would pit them against anybody at this point. So it's fun to watch UCLA doing their thing, man. It's just fun to watch college women's basketball right now. So that's my move in the needle for the week.
It's funny, you kind of stole mine because I'm gonna just say my move in the needle was just women's basketball as a whole. Of course, college, because like you didn't even mention the LSU Kentucky game. That was
you're right.
Yes, sir. That was a fantastic game yesterday. And then on top of that, it's like, we're a couple months away from the start of the next WNBA season, and all that's been going on with all the trades, like people switching teams, like. Now, DeWanna Bonner, we talked about her a ton last season. She's now going to be on the Indiana Fever. Like, I didn't even bring that up a couple weeks ago. And it's like, even now, like the Chicago Sky, they had the third pick. They traded that for Ariel Atkins. It's like, there have been so many moves and stuff that haven't really been talked about as much. But I'm telling you, I'm more excited for the women's college basketball tournament than I am the men's. And it's been like that for the past 2-3 seasons. We've both talked about that. Like, I'm hyped to see how far USC can go. I'm hyped to see how far, Notre Dame can go, how Kentucky's going to play, LSU, of course, Carolina. Like, we're huge fans. But, as soon as that's done, it's like we'll then have the WNBA season to look forward to. And right now, we've had the Unrivaled Basketball League. It's like,
yes.
like I'm telling you, man, like women's basketball, they got it right now. I'm sorry. They got it. And it's like the future is very bright. Like I've always said, if they can continue to market a lot of these young stars, the sky's the limit for women's basketball, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah, that's fun. It's going to be fun to watch that. So, well, we're going to wrap up this week's episode. That's our last of the Moving the Needle. Appreciate everybody listening in. We will see you next week.